Right in Japan, welcome. Right, something I've just done to this bike and testing it out. I've changed the sprockets, front and rear sprockets, and I changed the gearing. So I want to tell you about the difference in case you're thinking of doing this for yourself on your own bike. Talk about differences it made. Okay, this is a Yamaha FJ1200, and from factory the gear ratios are 39 on the back and 17 tooth on the front. I changed it. I went slightly bigger on the back. I've got 41 now and 16 on the front. So I went slightly bigger, slightly smaller. So I chose those gear ratios because out here in Japan, most of the riding I do is on mountain roads. So yeah, having like more of a lively bike that accelerates a bit harder, much more fun for me out here. If you go the other way, it's better for cruising. If you're just going down motorways, highways and that, maybe you want to go the opposite direction with your gear ratios. But for me, out here, suits my style of riding and I can have more fun on it on the mountain road. Top speed, not important to me at all. Like, I very rarely even hit 100 miles an hour on this bike. Totally capable of doing it, but on windy mountain roads, you're not actually ever doing really high speeds. You're just sort of braking hard, chucking it around a corner, and then you want to accelerate out. That's fun for me, doing that kind of riding. So this gear ratio suited it. So I'll give you some numbers to help you maybe get an idea of what difference it will make to your bike. Because we've got different bikes, different size wheels, different size tyres, different gear ratios from standard and stuff. So maybe a number, I'll tell you the difference it made on this bike, and then maybe numbers might help you make a decision on what might change on your bike. So this bike, standard, the gear ratios, yeah, is the amount of teeth on the back sprocket divided by the amount of teeth on the front sprocket. So this was from factory 39 divided by 17, 2.29, remember that, 2.29. And now my gear ratio is, what is it now? It's 41 divided by 16, 2.56. So numbers increased a little bit, only a little bit, 2.29, 2.56. They don't sound that different, but a really noticeable difference. The FJ, bless it, is a bit of an old chugger. It's an old man's bike. It's a bit of a tank. My other bike, Yamaha R1, very lively, accelerates so hard. And that bike is normal for me. That's the bike I've ridden mostly over the last almost 4 years now. So getting on the FJ since last year, it feels so slow. It feels really heavy, really slow. And I want it to be more like the R1. And so I decided I'm changing everything on this bike anyway, renewing stuff. So I was going to do the swing arm, chain, sprockets, all same time. Yeah, I was hoping lowering the gear ratio a little bit might help it be a bit more like the R1. I guess it is a step towards being more like the R1, because there's definitely more of a reaction when you pull the throttle back. But at the same time, it's still got the character of the FJ. Like, it does the same amount of that much throttle, and it does the same amount on that much throttle when you pull it back a bit more. But it's increased more than it was. I did a bad job of explaining it. Basically, right, maybe a better way to explain it is fifth gear is a bit more like fourth gear. Fourth gear is a bit more like third gear. Third gear is definitely more like second gear. It's third and second, I really notice it, and that's great because I use those gears a lot on the really tight corners. First gear, second gear isn't like first gear too much like that. First gear is still very pokey. There's a very big difference between first gear and second gear. But yeah, third, second, fourth, fifth, they've all sort of blended into each other a little bit. They've all come down a cog, it feels like. So, but yeah, those numbers don't sound that different, but it made a really noticeable difference. Out here for me, really suitable. Where I used to ride this bike, this is imported it from England. I used to live in Wiltshire, so I was bombing it up and down the A4 and the M4 and stuff. Those are really fast roads. Perhaps this modification might not have been too suitable, because fifth gear, obviously the revs are much higher, a lower speed. So that might have irritated me in England. Out here, perfect. I love having the revs really high. I'm in the power band much more often, and it's made the bike feel much more lively and much more athletic compared to the old man chugger it was. But yeah, really happy with the modification. So for how cheap it is as well, we're talking tens of pounds for the sprockets, and the chain as well was under 100 quid. So you can really change the character of your bike for not too much money, and relatively easy work as well. So I do recommend it, but have a think about what's suitable for you. Maybe people in the city, they're not reaching high speeds and they're blipping about and zinging around cars and stuff. So maybe this would have been good. I lived in London for years. Maybe this would have been good in London, not in Wiltshire where I was from, but out here in Japan, perfect. I'm really happy with the difference it made.